experience has had people get all shocked when you tell them just how bad you're feeling that day.
Go ahead, raise your hands. If you will see it.
I will?
Yeah, you see all.
Welcome to another chapter of the Ginger Chronicles. I'm V.
I'm Gaya. We are two chronically ill gingers here to talk to you about life, spoons, and today specifically pain?
Yeah, the pain others can't tell you're in.
Oh.
This experience can be super common for folks who have chronic pain and is not very comparable with how we understand pain by default. This could apply to other symptoms too. Pain is just one where I've personally experienced the most dramatic disconnect between expectations of how it looks versus how it actually looks on me.
I've had days where I'm so brain fogged. You know, I'm doing just small enough tasks that others around me can't really tell unless they ask more of me. We're good. Dude, we're rocking and rolling.
I have fibromyalgia and scoliosis. My spine does a squiggle, and apparently migraines now too. Those are new. Thanks, I hate it. TLDR, I have a lot of practice with chronic pain.
I have idiopathic hypersomnia and chronic fatigue. I Thank you. Don't live with chronic pain. My main connection point to this topic is knowing what it's like to be absolutely drained and masking so it's not visible.
People with chronic pain or other chronic illness symptoms often don't express their discomfort the same way that one does for acute symptoms. There are reasons why this is the case, and knowing and understanding them is really useful. If you have chronic pain, firstly, I'm sorry. Secondly, tell us in the comments how you tend to present when it ramps up. We are only two versions of what it's like to live with chronic illness. We are far from the only ones. Hey, maybe you'll make a friend who you've got a similar experience with. A lot of people with chronic pain present really differently when they're feeling it than our societal picture of what responding to pain looks like. I personally tend to appear completely fine to everyone except maybe my partner and closest friends until I hit a 7 or 8 out of 10.
Often, if I know you're having a bad pain day, it's because you tell me.
Most of the ideas that we as a society have about what pain looks like are centered on acute pain. Acute pain is tied to a specific short-term situation or cause, like an injury. A burn for cooking is acute pain, twisting your ankle is acute pain, appendicitis, very serious, that's acute pain.
I always think of my dad stubbing his toe, which is how I learned my first cuss word.
When you have chronic pain, it's, chronic. Pain becomes your normal. There's no set end point. It's just a thing that's gonna keep happening. You get accustomed, not to the point where it isn't painful, but to the point where you process it differently. My brain often will tune out pain below a 5 out of 10 by processing it and perceiving it as fatigue, probably because fatigue is less disruptive and easier to function through for me. I don't have the alarm bells going off in my head. Because of that, there can be this breakdown of the relationship between pain and that alarm you would have if you cut yourself while cooking.
We relatively recently, had a big tsunami warning, which was wild. We got the alarm, so we went to higher ground. I was getting these alarms every single day, and I would just be because it was a false alarm.
Yeah.
So I would live life normally. Pain is our body's alarm system, kind of wee-woo, something's happened. There's even a medical issue where people don't experience pain, so they won't know when they're hurting themselves. It's supposed to serve a purpose, I hear.
If there's a constant alarm going on, you stop thinking of it as something significant, it's not new information, or you just tune it out and don't notice it. This can be, I think, especially true with different sensations of pain. I get a lot of muscle soreness or aching or tension, duller sensations, and they tune out a bit more easily. If I did cut myself while cooking, I would still have the reaction you would expect because the sensation of having an injury and breaking the skin is really, really different than my chronic pain. Dealing with pain takes energy. It takes energy just to exist through it. You know what also takes energy? Emoting, expressing your emotions. It costs even more energy and concentration expressing what you're feeling when you're feeling chronic pain, and there's not really any benefit to it.
From a psychological background, having really strong emotions or really strong sensory experiences, it does take resources from the body. It makes biological sense that you would feel drained.
If I'm by myself, if I'm in a situation where I need or want to be personable, so I might need to remain calm, communicate clearly, either for medical reasons, or I might have like a social situation where I want to explain what's going on with me to the people around me, not have them lose their cool. If I'm in really, really severe pain, I often just don't have the energy to react much. People have described me in really high pain as like looking dull or tired or grayed out, but I'm not actively like grimacing or making sounds or anything. I just don't have it in me. I'd have to hit a 9 out of 10 before I can't control my reactions. And even then it's a little more like squirming in discomfort than screaming and crying.
When I've come over on high pain days, you've like prepped me. You're like, yeah, come over, just don't expect me to be a person. It's nice to be able to exist around each other without having to be people. You said that people will tell you that you look dull or grayed out or tired. Things like that interact with sexism. And it's a little bit of the whole, we talk about being too pretty to be sick. Even the joke I wanted to make it when you said, right, that people were telling you look tired or dull or grayed out, I was like, oh, just what a lady wants to hear. Even that joke kind of highlights.
If you have ever heard that cursed phrase, oh, you look too good to be sick,
first of all, thank you. Oh my God.
tell us about it in the comments. I could make a whole other video about people thinking you look too good to be sick. There's also a counterpoint where like men emoting how much pain they're in almost reads as threatening.
Not to talk about my dad twice in a video.
Hey, as long as I don't talk about my dad, we're good.
Deal. My father, love him, will tend to emote things like panic or uncertainty in a way that can come across, if you don't know him, as anger. There's a bunch of, gender-related baggage that comes with that.
So that disconnect between the expectations of what somebody in pain looks like versus how people who aren't experiencing it chronically and how they react to acute pain. That misunderstanding causes problems. In medical settings, I feel like this is one of the more clear-cut ones, actually. There's a really common pain reporting scale, 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. It connects the experience of how bad the pain is with a level of functioning or expression or a reaction in a way that doesn't usually apply to chronic pain patients. This can cause underreporting of pain, also like disbelief or dismissal from the medical professionals.
I want to be specific. They will present it to the patient with almost like emoticons above it that show like the facial expressions that go along with it, and you're able to match what facial expression matches how you feel, and then that gives it a number. When you're maybe more of a kid and you're trying to use this scale.
Yeah. The one they give to adults will have like a verbal description. My pain prevents me from doing anything at all. I can't think of anything about my pain. It'll give that verbal description about how you're relating to your pain. But if you're a chronic pain patient, you are probably not relating to your pain in that same way because you are used to it and you've had to develop a different way of relating to it in order to function.
So then that would cause the underreporting, and then the dismissal from the other side is if you were to say it's like, oh, I'm feeling an 8 or a 9, and then the medical professional would be like,
but you're so composed.
Yeah.
There's actually an alternate scale that's been developed by folks in the chronic pain community. I don't know if there's any uptake of this in the medical community. If you are a medical professional, you happen to see this video, I'd love to hear about how you handle this pain scale situation.
Absolutely.
Disbelief from medical professionals ain't great.
No, I think in video game metaphors, there's like a very specific path to the conversation tree if you want them to believe you. I know I don't look it. Generally, on my day-to-day scale, right now, it's a 5. Or it's a 9. I might look like a 3, or my normal is a 3.
So hopefully we don't have to tell you that being disbelieved by a medical professional is bad. It can lead to pain being undertreated. It can lead to underlying conditions that cause the pain being undertreated. And it can absolutely interact with other biases like medical racism. I've lost track of how many accounts I've read of Black and brown patients reporting a certain level of how bad their symptoms are, and medical professionals automatically downgrading before deciding how to treat that patient.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is...
Especially Black femme presenting, it is, I think, become well known.
It is not good.
How is it for you in non-medical social situations?
People can get weird about pain, and this creates problems that are harder to deal with while you are experiencing pain. Kind of makes sense that the lack of visible reaction can feel like there's a lack of immediacy to it, or it can make people feel like you're exaggerating or attention seeking or being manipulative or making it up. If you're somebody who tells somebody that they're exaggerating their pain because they can stay composed, you're the asshat. Don't do that. bad. Or in the like benevolent ableism side, they can get like flappy and panicky and very extreme, and they're having a big emotional response to the fact that you're in pain because they care about you so much.
Right.
So emphatically want to help you that they don't actually listen. People who love you and want the best for you do this, does still create problems.
You know, putting my allyship hat on, taking off the ass hat, putting on the allyship hat. My advice to other supporters who have, you know, friends, family, companions with chronic pain, listen to them. Right? Let them say what they need. They should let you know also what they want, because I feel sometimes you just want to have a normal day. You're in pain, but your body is like allowing you some degree of normalcy.
What I want is the thing that's going to make it easier for me to have a normal day, despite my pain.
It's really about listening. Sometimes you're going to need accommodations. Sometimes you're going to need to completely call it. And sometimes we just keep in mind to check in with you every so often, but we keep having a day as normal.
Bonus points, if somebody you're around regularly has chronic pain, ask them how they want situations like this handled when they're not in the middle of a situation like this, and then you remember it for when they are in bad pain. That can actually make our lives so much easier because we don't have to do the explaining while we're trying to manage the pain.
Or even just the thinking, like problem solving as you're going through it. Taking initiative to help clean so that you don't have to be like a war general from your sofa.
Yep. It can also come up in professional settings.
Oof, yeah.
Any job that requires dealing with people, which I feel like is most of them, whether that's your workmates or your customers. You know what makes for bad customer service face? Pain. I used to work as a hairdresser. I had understanding clients. I still had to focus on my composure to make sure they didn't feel weird.
And you're trying to keep your hands up to like do precise work or like dry hair. Oh gosh. For me, it was a lot of times facing towards my coworkers, needing kind of an awake and alert face. Wait, let's see if I can.
Are you okay?
This pillow's really helping out.
Yeah. Ableism is a thing in professional settings. Generally, you don't want issues with your employment. If your coworkers or supervisors conclude that your pain means you're not qualified to do your job.
Or that you don't appear professional enough, or that you don't, I don't know, contribute to work culture that well, like blah, 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 blah.
The balancing act, I feel like, gets tricky because sometimes you just need a certain thing to be different because of your pain levels, but you also need it to not be a bigger deal than that.
Yeah, neither of us have worked much in what you would call traditional employment settings. I think a lot of my work has just had flexible schedule, which really helped with my sleep things until my brain fog and my sleep nonsense, I can words, got too much. If you're managing to work in a more traditional employment setting and you're juggling chronic illness, please tell your fellow, what we call flare-up friends, tell them what that's like. Maybe what are some accommodations you figured out, maybe some language you know to use around it. You know where the comments are.
Yeah, and also like low-key but not low-key. Fuck capitalism for making us work when we are in bad pain or significantly unwell. It is both inefficient and also cruel.
We exist in a culture, at least I think here in America, our work productivity is expected to be constant, which is very unrealistic. And it straight up harms everyone involved. Capitalism doesn't really take into account bad days. It takes into account acute sickness days and
sorta. It doesn't do a great job with those.
And even then, like, you better have an okay ratio of like good to bad days.
And like, honestly, the US doesn't even mandate paid maternity leave, and that's a completely normal thing that people do. Get pregnant and have children.
There's no kindness for inefficiency in our systems, which means that the support has to come from people within the work structures, right? Not from the work structure itself. And that's not guaranteed at all.
To wrap up, I guess, people with chronic pain or other chronic illness symptoms often don't express our discomfort in the same way that one does for acute symptoms. There are a lot of reasons why this happens. Early on in my journey of like managing my pain, I actually had a little bit of confusion about myself. Like, is it really as bad as it feels, or am I just bad at taking it?
That's so interesting. For you, the pain part of chronic pain, you kind of misled yourself on. It's the chronic part that I misled myself on, where I thought it was an acute problem, that if I just got it right, it would go away.
For fellow spoonies, first, this is maybe not okay. Chronic pain is never like fun. This is a normal and recognized aspect of how chronic pain affects people. If you're not emoting or expressing the way somebody would with the same level of acute pain. This is your body and your brain looking out for you by saving energy and trying to keep you as functional as possible. 2, if you do know what your reactions to increasing pain looks like, this can help you communicate with others and navigate the world more easily.
You communicate differently to different groups of people. Because around people you don't know how understanding or helpful they'd be, so you tend to be more conservative with your resources and you don't push yourself when you're with closer friends who will be more understanding, and we could be more helpful if you push yourself farther.
As for folks who are not chronically ill, don't have direct experience of stuff like this.
Hey, here are some actionables for non-spoonies.
Yeah. When someone tells you they're in pain, believe them.
You're taking this really personally. Sorry, that was a bad joke. No, actually, it's so easy to believe someone when they tell you they're in pain. It is objectively a simple thing to believe.
It's so straightforward. Oh my gosh. Even if you don't know what to do with that information, believe them and go from there. Trust me. It's especially useful to set your own reactions to the side when you're trying to offer assistance or support. The disbelief or the confusion, or that I care about you so much and I want to make everything okay for you. Set it aside. It'll make it easier to communicate about what they actually want and actually need. And medical professionals.
Hey guys.
For the love of your work, please take this video to heart if you happen to see it, and take your patient's pain level seriously.
I know your shoulders were bothering you earlier. How are you doing now?
They're like, I put topical pain stuff on them earlier, so this is like treated. This is me at a 6 to 7. Here I am.
Wow. Well, let's get you horizontal.
Yes, please.
I'm so tired. It's fine. It's all good. Do you remember a situation in which you had to mask your symptoms? Because, like, we've all had to, right? Would there have been anything that would have made that situation easier? If there were any ways that others could have better supported you? Take some good cues from each other down in the comment. Then I can support better chronic pain. V can support better chronic sleepiness, and there's so many other chronic things.
And we can all send this video to the people around us who have none of those. Click the button to tell YouTube that chronic illness content is good and important. Subscribe for regularly scheduled chats with us about every aspect of spoonie life we can think of. Tell your friends too, whether they're spoonies, people who know spoonies, or people who don't know they know spoonies.
Right. You can find us around the internet. We'll put our social info up on screen. Hey, stay cozy.
Stay cozy, flare-up friends.
Oh, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this so good.
We're gonna do this. We definitely didn't spend an hour and 20 minutes on camera earlier today.
10 out of 10. Well, reverse. 0 out of 10.
A number that definitely exists on my pain scale.